Settling into our spot, and we have hearing occurring, sound coming to the ear door. And we might have touching happening. We can feel clothing against our skin. We can feel air against our exposed areas of our face or our neck or our hands. There might be taste happening in the mouth. Sight was happening, but now that our eyes are closed, unless they're slightly open, you have soft sight ahead of you, just softening the gaze. And if they're closed, there may be thought patterns that arise that are visual. And so we also have the thought door. And we just settle in our noble position of upright as much as is comfortable and still being comfortable. Sometimes there might be walking involved or standing involved or laying down involved. Whatever position we take, we're wanting to be comfortable enough to let our attention be on mindfulness and awareness. And so we might take a few deep breaths that make us feel settled where we are. We can notice that maybe there's a long breath coming in and a long breath going out. Settling with gravity, our buttocks on the cushion and chair, our hands resting somewhere we can usually feel weight or warmth or density at touch points. Our feet on the floor, we might notice pressure, warmth. This touching sensation is a place that we can return to when we find the mind off in thought processes, or if we have body sensations that we can't really stay with. And so we can return to the touch point. Or if you're used to developing the breath, being with the breath at the nostrils, or at the diaphragm, for a little while to notice just the single object of attention. Being mindful of that single object, the breath, the touch point. It can help seclude the mind from the wandering of defilements and hindrances that so commonly steer us away from our practice. So we develop this attention at a single object, at the breath, wherever we find it, or the touch point. It can also be at each changing object that comes into view, and we have mindfulness with it, awareness of it, and investigation as we stay with it and then see it dissolve. Object after object arises. We see it mindfully. Awareness is there. The object dissolves, awareness dissolves, and it comes up again with the next object that comes into view. Any of these help us to protect the mind. from the hindrances. Restlessness and worry, or sloth and torpor, tiredness. Doubt can arise in the practice. And then there's always grasping and clinging at something to stay the same because we like it, or pushing away something that arises that we don't like. So we have craving and aversion. And these are just common mind states that come and go in us as humans born in this lifetime. So we can't really get upset about them. We can just see them clearly as they arise. Make a soft, gentle note about it, and go on from there. Or go back to the breath or the touch point. And letting ourselves be held in kindness. Having gratitude and appreciation for ourselves for taking this time to be here. Paying homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, each other in our circle here. So much kindness that we can have for each other, and so much appreciation, paying homage to our Sangha and all those around us that are practicing at the same time in other places. And those before them and those before them. This ancestral lineage of people dedicated to the practice, who understood the Buddha's teachings and realized that they were important enough to preserve as best they could through the spoken word and singing of chants, and finally the writing that went from country to country. And we have this really precious opportunity to do what all of them have been doing, looking at something difficult and trying to tame the mind, the heart and mind. And there can be a great deal of joy included in that, kindness for ourselves. Because we take this opportunity, no matter how hard it is to see what's happening. Maybe we can't even tell what's happening. There's just confusion or ignorance there. But we just slowly plod along, attending to the breath, keeping the mind alert with as much effort as we need to keep the lute strings tuned. And have our interest in taming the mind, letting go of what isn't wholesome for us, and inclining our hearts and mind toward what is more wholesome. Loving kindness, compassion, just the right amount of effort, concentration, mindfulness, awareness, any number of ways to opening up our hearts and minds to skillful and noticing and letting go of what's unskillful without attaching to too long of a storyline around it all. And we just keep beginning again. reminding ourselves from time to time what's happening in the heart and mind right now, or what is the attitude of the mind, without having judgment about it. We're just with what's happening. Sometimes our mind is busy and constricted. Other times there might be spaciousness and an open awareness, and we can just be present with what's ever there, holding it kindly, gently, with compassion, and having the observation of insight to see that it's not permanent. It has the three characteristics of changing, not permanent, and impersonal. And we see that directly for ourselves. That's the joy of this practice. We can listen and talk about and study the Dhamma, but the practice, the direct experience, is what continues to unfold and guide us toward freedom from suffering. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I can breathe in kindness and compassion for myself, and breathing out, I can breathe out kindness and compassion for others. Clearly being aware of what's arising in the heart and mind, letting that basis of kindness to ourselves, non-ill will, and to others be a stable part of our practice. waking up right where we are in this moment, that reminder of our precious human birth. Some of us are familiar with Pema Chodron's writings, and recently in some of the writings was once again the reminder of one of our biggest faults is the tendency to overlook the things that are important to us while we still have them. And we only realize how precious something is once it's gone, and by then it's too late. So according to some of the traditional teachings, the human body is very precious, hard to obtain. And this might seem like a rhetorical statement, but if we look at the vast amount of insects in the natural world and compare that to the number of human beings, we can really see that a human life is relatively rare. And so we broaden the way we think about possible states of existence. There's a point that Shantideva made in 685 to 763 was when he lived. This is why the Buddha has declared that like a turtle that perchance can place its head within a yoke adrift upon a shoreless sea, this human birth is difficult to find. By appreciating our precious human body, we can transform it into a spiritual vehicle of unconditional meaning and joy. It is difficult enough to obtain a human birth from among the 6 potential realms of existence, and is rarer still to attain a human birth that has the attributes and leisure that properly define a precious human body. The freedoms we possess consist of being born human, having the leisure to pursue spiritual practice, possessing physical health and intelligence, contact with the teachings and the moral sensibilities to appreciate those teachings, and feel compassion for others. In other words, our human body has all the capacities we need to cultivate a spiritual existence if we have a precious human birth. Many human beings do not have the endowments and leisure that are necessary for spiritual practice. You must remind yourself of these freedoms and endowments every time you practice and engrave them deeply in your mind. He said, "My life could very easily have been different. I might have died in infancy, be suffering from a grave physical or mental deficiency, be living in grinding poverty, or be experiencing any of the things that are an anathema to pursuing a spiritual life. I am very fortunate indeed." And so we keep that in mind when we notice our attention wavering, without being hard on ourselves or thinking we need to hurry up, practice like our hair's on fire because there's only so much time. We're just present with what's arising in a relaxed way, nurturing ease and well-being, aware, interested, just reminding ourselves from time to time this precious human birth. And the joy and the beauty and the quietness that can be encouraged and maintained in this mind with Dhamma. Starting again. as S.N. Goenka, if anybody ever did a retreat of his, begin again. Begin again. With his great accent, begin again. And as we continue, beginning again, opening to what has happened in this present moment at any of the sense doors, being aware of our breathing. It might be different now than it was when we started. And as we hold ourselves gently in this way, in this container of our body and our breath, we also want to be sure that that foundation of kindness gets nurtured. However we can hold in our hearts or minds or memory or current somatic response, that we find a place of joy for us, a place that is protected and can be a container for us to hold ourselves gently. It can be grounded in the anchor of this body, of our vehicle of breath, or it can be found as a place in the mind of remembrance, however we can access and feel safe and comfortable, wishing ourselves to be free from harm and be at ease, be relaxed. Notice the places that aren't and just hold them kindly. May I be at ease, even when things are challenging. May I find stability. No matter what's happening. May I notice moments of joy, however subtle, and let those be a reminder as a part of my experience of non-harming, holding ourselves in goodwill, noticing when we aren't, without judgment or shame about it, and repeating a feeling or a phrase that works to reinforce this heartfelt space. May I be relaxed and at ease. May I hold myself with gentleness and kindness. May I let this kindness and compassion include others. Those for whom it's easy to feel kindness. It can be a close friend or a benefactor, holding this person in our hearts and minds. Wishing them to have happiness and the causes of happiness. Have ease in their lives. May they hold themselves gently and have compassion for themselves in difficult times. May we just radiate this unconditional kindness and have enough equanimity to hold their suffering with compassion. Sound arrives at the ears. Compassion can be sent everywhere. Kindness can be sent everywhere. As we allow another being to come into our awareness, another friend or benefactor, a teacher in human form or other sentient being form. And as we expand this circle of kindness and compassion, employing equanimity as we let into our hearts other beings, we might focus on a neutral person or a neutral being. Letting these thoughts of kindness include this person, wishing that they be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their lives. May they have well-being. And may we also include in this circle of kindness other beings that are unknown to us, some who may be in suffering. We can usually have a flood of beings come into our minds when we think about those in suffering. May we hold them with kindness and compassion, letting equanimity be that witness while holding them with true connection. Feeling the suffering of others and letting our heart quiver with that understanding. And you let flowing around us from our hearts this kindness, this well-wishing, that all beings in suffering become free from suffering, have ease. And those who are in happiness and joy, they too, may they be held in kindness, held in compassion. Those beings seen and unseen, known and unknown, enlightened and unenlightened. May we develop this capacity of kindness and compassion, equanimity and joy in this precious human birth, to be able to be with our own suffering and be with others, and know and touch into the vast, limitless space of healing energy, ease, and well-being, that we can touch others just in this practice of ourselves in our room. This vast sensation that can flow from our hearts and include all beings. May all beings everywhere, all of those insects and bugs that we like and those that we don't like or have an opinion about, those that swim and crawl and walk and fly, may all beings everywhere have ease, be free from harm and safe and protected. Just as I wish to be happy, I know that all beings wish to be happy. And may the goodness of this practice be of benefit to all sentient beings. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakitava merochanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. Thank you so much for your practice. And it brings great joy, not only directly to me, but to many others. All of those that you've included in your loving kindness and Brahma Vihara practice, and even those that didn't even come into your awareness, but receive this vast ocean of kindness